If you recognize this man, Coach Ron Woodard, you'll enjoy the next few minutes. If you never had the opportunity to know him, you missed out on something special. So you might want to tip your hat to him as someone who lived well, and say a prayer for his family and friends who miss him. And know that because of the positive influence and impact he had on his children and family, and scores of students and young athletes over a long teaching career, this world is truly a different and a better place. I am one of those who was so influenced and impacted. The great part for me was that I also had the opportunity to not only get to know him and his family, but for he and his family to become a part of my life and me a part of theirs over many years. To many of us who knew him, he was always Coach. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. He is, has been, and always will be Coach. He was smart and earned a bachelor's and master's degree at a time when that was not a common thing. Fresh out of college at the University of New Mexico in the late 60s, Coach and Penny moved to Carlsbad, a young family in tow, and began earning the respect and admiration of many of us. Penny was lovely, a knockout. Coach was a pure stud. In fact, stud and studly were two of his favorite words for many years as he grabbed hold of you, shook you around a little bit, and then would say, "Pure stud," with a big smile. It was his way of saying, "Great to see you." Coach in his 20s was not someone to mess with. My little brother once thought it would be a great idea while walking between classes and passing Coach outside his classroom to greet him with, "Hello, Ron." A few steps later, he realized that wasn't such a good idea when Coach had him in a wrestling hold and said, "You mean Coach Woodard, Sam," before straightening him up and sending him on his way. You see, Coach thought it was his responsibility to correct us when we needed to be corrected and to help our parents turn us into fine young men. And he was right, and those were different times. It wasn't long before he was a fixture in the school system where he demanded effort and desired excellence out of his students and didn't hesitate to give students what they had earned, good or bad, because he knew that was what was best for them. Coach and Penny taught their children to live up to high personal standards of excellence as well. That played out in real life like this. There's no job or task that is beneath you. Within your scope of responsibility, you do whatever is necessary to get your job done. Because real success is not measured by what you accumulate in life, but from the satisfaction you feel inside when you know you've given everything you've got. Coach had a deep personal faith in God. It was a simple faith, and it was the anchor at the core of his being. He believed, and that belief dictated the way he lived. Simple as that. For a guy who took great care of himself throughout life, it was difficult to see him having health problems. But none of us are guaranteed anything but today. Coach understood that and accepted the challenges life threw his way with the same will and determination that characterized his entire life. Coach mellowed as he aged, like we all do, hopefully. That only helped him to be more expressive of his love for his family and those outside his family that he had grown to love and care for. But he really loved his family, and that love was abundantly returned to him. A group of us did an annual fishing trip for 15 to 20 years to the high country of Chama, New Mexico. When Coach was no longer able to make the trip, we all stopped going. We didn't discuss it, we just stopped. While we were all friends and family anyway, Coach was one that really tied us all together. I guess it was out of respect for him that we stopped, but it also just didn't seem right to be there without him. But in his latter years, this is where Coach was at his best. He loved it and began looking forward to the next year as soon as the current one ended. On one of our trips, a curious bear came down to the lake we were on. I was able to get some shots of the bear over Coach's shoulder from my float tube while I was trying to make sure I had an escape route if the bear made some unfriendly intentions known. All of us were a little wary, with the exception of Coach. He was fishing. You can see here that it looks like the bear is interestingly looking at the little guy in the middle of the boat. Not only is Coach not concerned about the bear, but he's actually whistling. I like to think the bear maybe realized, like my brother did, that it might be a mistake to mess with this little guy. And on his way he went. As time goes by and we see those that we love precede us in death, I'm reminded of a 30-year-old conversation with an 80-year-old retired school teacher named Lois Powell. A few weeks before her death, as I talked to her in the hospital, she paused and looked at me and said, "You know, Rusty, I'm not afraid to die. I've got more folks over there than I do here." I've never forgotten those words, and in fact, take comfort in them. For I too have lots of folks over there. As each one of them has passed over the years, I realize more and more that what lies beyond this life is becoming less a mystery and beginning to feel more like home.
Coach, was this you? Nice. Golly. Very nice. Yeah, I'm taking video. Good job. That's great. Wow.